So this next segment is called the Anality of Evil. The Anality of Evil. So the Anality of Evil is sort of a nice take on a classic. I'm blanking on her name. What was her name? I was just talking about her the other day. Banality of Evil. The Origins of Totalitarianism. What was totalitarianism? Hannah Arendt. I think she coined the banality of evil thing. But I thought about it. What about the anality of evil? You know what I mean? Because Cat Turd kind of has like an anal thing going on. So I was like, okay, there's sort of an anality of evil that no one's really looked at as far as I'm aware. I mean, I'll probably check that for the follow-up segment next episode. But what about the anality of evil? Is there potentially some association between anal aspects of things and evil? You know, I'm sorry that comes off the wrong way. I'm not trying to judge your personal decisions in terms of look, anal has a different, I mean it in the psychoanalytic sense. Okay. So Cat Turd is a Twitter personality who has been a big Trump Musk fan. So let's see what we got, okay? Because this is someone posting online that they don't care. I'll just read what they say. No, I don't. Actually, I won't. But they say that they don't care about people being deported from the country. So I don't know if this person even lives in the United States, frankly. I don't know their citizenship or anything like that. But let's just kind of look at that, because I would say, in my opinion, like, if you are justifying someone being removed from their community, from their home, from their community, from their workplace, which that's what deporting is, okay? So if you're okay with that, and you're okay with that even when the person's been in the country for decades, which we've seen many, many times, we've seen people get deported to countries they were granted asylum from. We've seen people, have kids and marriages and all kinds of different connections that were not anything that the U.S. government cared about when they removed this person from their community. So what does it mean to not care, to be apathetic to people being removed from their homes and their communities after often decades of membership in those communities, because they do not have citizenship? Often these are people who were literally told by ICE, just come every year and meet with us and we won't deport you. So to not care about the lying, to not care about removing people from their communities and taking their freedoms from them, in a very real sense, saying they don't deserve the freedoms of association that other people would have. So what does it mean for people to not care? I wanted to kind of look into the anality of evil. It is also the banality of evil. This person who has the Twitter sort of tag says, it's funny that liberals can differentiate between 85 genders but can't tell the difference between legal and illegal immigrants. Yeah, I mean, it's just so remarkable. I mean, people really have, like, you never know when someone who you're reading what they're posting on the internet, like, they might have, like, dozens of traumatic brain injuries. You know what I mean? Like, and then that's not, I don't even mean that in an insulting way. Like, you just never know what someone's dealing with. Obviously, respecting trans people has nothing to do with, like, being able to differentiate a higher quantity of genders. It's hard to respond to something so off base, but I believe that illegal immigrants should still not necessarily be removed from their communities. I don't necessarily think that the punishment for being an illegal immigrant should always be deporting. Period. Like, should the punishment for speeding be that you lose your car? I just don't see the difference. So yeah, being able to make a distinction between documented, undocumented. I mean, by the way, just a message to gypsy, which, by the way, that's a slur. If you're not aware, gypsies it's essentially a slur, and you're referencing a people that have been oppressed and targeted around the world, and you're using a slur. But maybe you have the freaking 1/12 Romani. Okay, just a message for you though, slur. The U.S. government has been redesignating people who are documented and making them undocumented. So, what do you think of that? Do they just have the right to do that? Okay, let's look at more anality of evil. No, this person says, keep deporting. If they are committed to American values, come back the legal way. So, a lot of these people, Maggie in Virginia, did actually come the legal way. Do you understand that, Maggie in Virginia? A lot of them actually, we talked about the 500,000 people the Republican president canceled parole, 500,000 people. So they're canceling, they actually cancel the legal status for people. So, for instance, they allowed DHS to cancel parole so these are people with legal status that are then given, that are then now having that legal status taken away. So Maggie in Virginia, there are actually a lot of people coming the legal way that are then punished and deported regardless. Still don't care. Cool. Can you deport your bad attitude next? I don't even understand which side they're on by the confused way they posted that. This person says, I want so many people deported that I never have to press 1 for English again. And they're saying it with a meme. So did this person have this meme saved on their computer? We got ourselves an image segment here. They are identifying the concept of not wanting to have to press 1 for English. By the way, it's 1. So it's the first option, right? But to not have to press 1 for English, they identify that as a knight in shining armor. Archangel, whose image is a meme of two elderly, I don't know if it's Biden or something, and Jill Biden or whatever, and a very ominous bio. And they want so many people. Just so you know, Archangel, these are separate things that the racist government does. They separately traffic people out of the country, and then they separately make it so people who don't speak English have a harder time functioning. I think we should absolutely, do a lot to encourage immigrants to learn English. I think it just doesn't need to be a draconian, a really mean process. You can encourage people to learn English without punishing them severely. But a lot of these people who post these things, and I sort of touch on this in my MAGA videos, I don't really touch on this in my MAGA video, but a lot of these people just grew up in really authoritarian households. So it's just normal to them, for negative reinforcement to be the form of learning used, for punishment, for abuse often to be the form of reinforcement used in learning. So, but regardless, there's so many things that are silly about this and evil and really anality of evil, to this person. And are they joking? How could you ever think they're joking? Them not having to remember that other people speak other languages is more important than other people's right to live in the communities they've been in for decades. And you just wonder, how alone and sad this person is to lack empathy in that way, and how their family and friends must feel about them. This person says, I just don't understand why they don't self-deport. If they are so afraid of being hurt, why don't they just take the money? Sorry, I just had a weird tech issue. You're seeing it, I think, but I was trying to do two things at once and I confused myself. Why don't they just take the money that our government is paying them, and even if they aren't getting paid, wouldn't it make life a whole lot easier to just go back home to your own country? Okay, so kind of this person might not understand sort of the basics of the issues at play here. It's the problem is it's not their own country, right? In a lot of situations, we're talking about people who were not actually like spent almost any time in that country. So yeah, if you and this person sort of says, oh, they're paid, but they're not paid. You know what I mean? So maybe there's a misunderstanding, but I do have an article to pull up for this person because they might be confused. So if they happen to see this, they could, just take my advice and maybe like read an article about the subject. I'm just like trying to get an article and I'm like having issues here. Okay, hold on. All right, I got you. So essentially, why don't people self-deport? Why don't people just leave their communities when they're politely asked to by the U.S. federal government? Okay. Well, if we look at one article, it says this family self-deported to Mexico and lost everything. So this is from yesterday from Reuters. They'd been living in Glendale, Arizona for 7 months, sharing a 2-bedroom apartment, slowly building a life far from threats of cartel violence made them flee Mexico. And opposite their apartment block was a small butcher named after the town they had fled in the dangerous Mexican state of Michoacan. And then they were told to self-deport, leave on your own terms, get $1,000 and a free flight to leave. So they leave. And because they were told their asylum application was weak and they would likely be deported. And they passed Mexican customs and they didn't have the car title. So the officials, actually, this is the Mexican National Guard, apparently took $5,000, the family's entire savings, for a fine, and took their car. So they went back worse off to the country they fled. I don't know, and this is just one case. It's great that Reuters does fantastic reporting, but Donald Putin, if you really don't understand, the basic premise is people are trying to build a better life, right? Like that's the basic premise. So they do that. And it's kind of like, I thought that was like the thing that we brag about America. You know what I mean? This is what's called a false dichotomy. We've got to put our own families and communities first. This person says, I don't know, but we need to arrest Obama. So Zorak has a bit of a one Zorak mind. My sympathy was used up 25 million illegals ago. Well, Victoria Campbell, when was that? Because that is far more than the number of undocumented people in the United States. But maybe you're just low on empathy. This person finds a meme that expresses their lack of empathy. This person says, yes, you can believe in the rule of law, the need to maintain a degree of cultural homogeny, and still have empathy for others. Okay. So they're saying, yes, they do care about the people being deported. But they also want a degree of cultural homogeny and believe in the rule of law. I don't know what they mean by believe in the rule of law, because when the government changes its mind about parole programs, I don't, and gives very, very brief notice. I mean, the government has been held accountable for not giving sufficient notice to a significant number of people that they've trafficked out of the country. Okay, so these are just some of the examples of the anality of evil. So this person says, what right do they have under the U.S. Constitution? Actually, they do have rights, if you're not aware of that deep blue crypto. Undocumented people do actually have rights under the U.S. Constitution as residents of this country. This person says, nah, fam, let's just keep cooking and stacking those gains. This person seems to be making some sort of money from the human trafficking operation that the U.S. government is doing. This person says, nope, I don't care if they have been here 80 years, get them out of here. So Ruby Tubi, not as cute in opinions as they are in their face. Let me just say that. Okay. I smile so Gunther Eagleman team with 1.4 million followers on Twitter says, I smile every time I see a deportation. Good riddance to every single one of them. Okay. So Gunther Eagleman likes seeing people removed from their communities and their homes and their workplaces. Presumably if they're not white. I mean, I don't really know the exact rules for Gunther Eagleman on Twitter, but all right, so that's a little foray, it was a big foray, frankly, into the anality of evil and the banality of evil. It's kind of a twofer. This is a podcast or something like that.